Welcome to Love One Season 2, brought to you by Your Speak, bringing people together like never before. We will be releasing 3 shows every weekend, and this is our 3rd weekend called Holding On. Our final show of this group, aptly named Holding On, is Guten Tag, Baby, starring Kim Gordon and Jamie Lupien Swenson of Maine, Jamie Lee of Illinois, and Sean Polite of Georgia. Directed and produced by Helen May of Florida, and soundscape engineered by Joe Swenson of Maine. Guten Tag, Baby is written by Scott Sickles, who also wrote Outposts and Appetizers or On an Island Somewhere, both from the Future Audio Fiction podcast.
Good thing we made the reservations so far in advance. Turns out there's no more vacancies. Why is the place so empty?
There's some event going on down the road. I think it's a 4th of July carnival.
Maybe we can check it out. Did you order yet?
We're waiting for you. The server said to wave her over when we're ready.
Good, because I am starving. Mom, have you looked at the menu? Mom? Are you okay?
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Is the place like you remember it?
Oh, no. No.
Oh, I'm sorry you're disappointed.
No, it's much nicer. Back then it was all red, white, and blue.
For the bicentennial?
I think it was that way anyway, but this is so pretty.
The architecture is lovely, isn't it, Grandma? I love Art Deco.
It was like that back then, of course. The colors may have changed, but the tower, the diner.
Have a look at the menu. You can tell us if that's changed or not.
Thank you, Vivian. I know you didn't want to come.
I wouldn't say that.
But you indulged my whim, and
anything to help you remember. Even if it means coming here.
Desdemona.
It's just us, Grandma.
This is where I met your grandfather.
I know. You told me you...
I was sitting at the counter right over there 43 years ago today. Oh, what is today?
Still only the 3rd, Mom.
43 years ago tomorrow. And your grandfather, Desdemona, he came up to me, sweet and handsome as anything, and said,
Guten Tag,
baby.
Guten Tag.
Baby.
Did he think you were German?
He wasn't taking any chances. See, I was driving Route 66 all the way from Chicago to Santa Monica. He and his friends, there were a dozen of them altogether, were driving in the other direction, from Santa Monica to Chicago. Well, I just looked at him and said, no, ich spreche English, baby. And he laughed and said,
Mea maxima culpa. My friends and I just came from the Grand Canyon. There are so many German tourists there that even the menus are in English and Deutsch. Anyway, we're a classic car club, and we're doing exhibitions all along the highway. You should come see us tomorrow.
I'm afraid I'm heading west.
Then we need to make the most of tonight. Dance with me.
Normally, I would have told a man like that to take a hike. But your grandfather,
I'm Armand, by the way.
I just couldn't resist.
Mom, what are you doing? You can't do that here.
Just let her.
We're in a restaurant.
And we're the only ones here. She's happy. If someone comes in, I'll get her.
Of course, the place looked a lot different at night. The lights were lower, and the neon glowed in the windows. It was magical.
Sounds wonderful, Grandma.
And I'm sure it was. But I don't want you to get the wrong idea about your grandfather. I know she remembers him as being this wonderful, carefree, charming man.
We're lucky she remembers him at all.
I know. You're right. It's just, I have heard this story so many times.
And is this how she usually tells it?
Almost word for word.
Isn't that important? Look, I get that you resent him for leaving, and you're right. And I'm sure hearing this again is the last thing you want right now. But you know the story. I don't. So I won't know if she's gone off track and started making things up. You will.
I hate you for being right.
I know. It's my burden.
But if I'm going to make sure she remembers him accurately, I'm going to make sure you remember him accurately too. You're old enough. I want you to have the whole picture.
And I look forward to it. But for now... Oh, you're back.
Of course I am. The song ended. Vivian, thank you for bringing me here.
You already thanked me, Mom.
It's so kind of you to indulge me. Ever since I got that letter from your father, I couldn't wait to come back.
Sorry, what?
I'm so glad we could get here in time for the holiday.
Dad wrote to you?
I showed you the letter, don't you remember?
No, Mom. You definitely didn't show me any letter.
Oh, I must have it here somewhere.
He can't possibly have.
Maybe it's an old letter?
I didn't think he was even...
Or she's imagining it. Who writes letters anymore?
Here it is. Now, do you remember?
Can you tell us what it says, Grandma?
Why don't you read it? I don't want to go through my purse again to find my glasses.
I'd love to. The postmark says he's...
I don't want to know where he is.
Okay. Guten Tag, baby. He sent a photo.
That's the two of us posing in front of the tulip. That's what they call the thingy on top of the tower out front. That photo was taken the night we met. A friend of your grandfather found an old roll of film and was able to get it developed. And this was on it.
You were a beautiful couple.
Does he look disappointed? Because that's how I remember him.
Oh, Vivian, stop harping on your father. He loved you very much, you know that.
No, I don't.
He would always go on and on about how strong and independent you were.
Like I had a choice. He always looked at me like, I don't know. But he was never happy with me. Everyone else, he was Mr. Sunshine. But with me...
Not because he didn't love you. It was just that you were a reminder.
Of what?
That he couldn't protect me. You remember? From that man at the motel. Not this motel. We passed it a while back. Or we passed where it was. It's not there anymore.
What man, Grandma?
You're a young woman now, and your generation knows everything anyway. I didn't head west to California like I planned. Instead, I joined your grandfather and his friends and headed back to Chicago with them. We were all supposed to meet at a bar near the motel. While I was on my way, a man grabbed me and pulled me into his car. By the time anyone realized I was taking too long, it was over, and the man had driven off into the night.
So they never caught him?
How could they? Anyway, I told your grandfather and his friends that I was fine, but they insisted on taking me to the police and the hospital. Of course, it's Texas, and I was a woman on her way to a bar, so what could I expect?
My God, that's horrible.
It was.
You seem very... I don't know... calm about it?
It was nearly 45 years ago. Believe me, I wasn't calm at the time. I guess there's something to be said about indifference. It's contagious. The people who were supposed to help me didn't care, so I started to grow numb to it. Like the indifference prolonged the shock. But the people who didn't have to help me, your grandfather and his friends, we had only just met, they had places to be, they owed me nothing. But from that night on, Desdemona, I was never alone.
Grandpa stayed with you?
He or one of his friends, they let me cry all over them. They held me when I needed to be held, let me be when I needed solitude, but they were always nearby just in case. Armand insisted on sharing my hotel room with me. Sometimes I'd want to be by myself, so we'd get adjoining rooms and leave the door open just a crack in case anyone broke in. But no one ever did. They took care of me like proper gentlemen, like knights in armor, all the way back to Chicago. Armand and I got married the day we arrived. People thought it was a shotgun wedding, but we didn't even know I was pregnant. You know, from the incident.
The incident, you mean?
The man at the motel.
Wait, but how did you know Armand wasn't?
Armand and I were never intimate in that way. He loved men. I didn't care for sex one way or the other, and that was before what happened. After? Well.
So why did you get married?
For him, it was respectability. The 1970s weren't exactly an easy time to be a man like Armand. And my parents were on my back constantly about being single. They were not what we call liberated. So when I came home with a husband and a child on the way, Vivian, you and your father were my salvation. They loved Armand.
So why did he leave?
He fell in love. I know you think it had something to do with you, Vivian, but it didn't. Not really. Though he was ashamed. Not only because he couldn't protect me that night, but because that shame built such a wall between you. He once said,
If they made prisons out of what stands between me and my Viv, no one could ever escape.
even in sorrow, he was grand.
He called her his Viv?
All the time. And he blamed himself for not being able to mean what a father is supposed to mean to his daughter. Fortunately, he found someone he could be happy with. I'd never stand in the way of that. I loved him too much. He loved me the same, and if I had fallen in love with anyone else, he'd have let me go too. I never did, though.
Weren't you in love with Armand? Because when you talk about him, it sounds like...
I believe Armand was the closest I ever came to falling in love. But no, though I did love him. Honestly, I figured if I couldn't fall in love with Armand, I probably didn't have whatever component you need to fall in love with anybody. He truly was the most wonderful man I've never known. But I'm sorry he couldn't be a better father to you, Vivian. And so is he.
What does he have to be sorry about? It turns out he's not actually my father anyway.
Oh, what are you getting so upset about? It's not like I haven't told you all of this a million times.
No, Mom. This was a first.
Grandma, don't go anywhere. I need to check on my mom.
I promise. And Des, your grandfather would be so proud of you. You are so much like him. So odd, so yourself. And also so like your mother. He would love that.
I know this is a stupid question, but are you okay?
I thought I was gonna be sick. Fortunately, I haven't eaten in forever, so.
Maybe it's not true. Maybe your mind is just telling stories. It wouldn't be the first time.
No, it's true. It makes too much sense. He wasn't always distant. Sometimes he would try hard to connect with me. I think because he was so friendly and outgoing with everybody, I found it annoying. So when he was like that with me, it was just too much. At least now, I understand why. My God, listen to me. My mother just told me she was, and I'm making it all about me.
But it is about you. It's about all of you.
I guess.
Can I tell you what he wrote in his letter now?
Not yet. Later. Maybe later.
Guten Tag, baby.